Part 1. The invisible battle behind the veil. There comes a moment in the awakening process where everything begins to unravel, not just in your outer life, but inside your soul. You may have thought that awakening would bring only peace, clarity, and bliss. But suddenly you find yourself wrestling with thoughts that feel foreign, emotions that don't seem like yours, and darkness that feels ancient and suffocating. No one told you that awakening would make you a target. No one told you that when you begin to see the truth, the darkness starts to see you too. You begin to feel pressure in ways you've never felt before. You start having vivid dreams, some of them beautiful, but others filled with terror, shadows, and strange entities watching you. You might wake up exhausted even after hours of sleep, as if you've been battling all night in a realm you can't see. This is not just imagination. This is spiritual warfare. And it intensifies the moment you begin to break through the illusions of this world and remember who you really are. What no one tells you about demons during awakening is that they won't always come how you expect. They won't always appear as frightening figures with horns or smoke and fire. They often come as thoughts that whisper doubt just when you begin to believe in yourself. They come as temptations, distractions, or even people who suddenly turn against you with no logical reason. They disguise themselves in familiarity. Because the greatest trick the darkness plays is convincing you that it doesn't exist, or worse, that it is you.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Many people don't realize that demons operate through resonance. They need something inside you to agree with them. That's why they often emerge when you're healing. When you're digging into your trauma, your fears, your buried pain, that's when they strike. Not because you're weak, but because healing is a threat. Awakening is not just about light, it's about bringing light into places that have been hidden in shadow for years, for lifetimes. And when that light comes, everything buried begins to rise, including them. They know your weaknesses, not because they're omniscient, but because they've been watching. They've studied your patterns, your bloodline, your pain. They know how to whisper just the right lie to trigger a spiral. They know how to use your past against you. And the moment you start to wake up, the moment you begin to reclaim your mind, your body, your energy, they panic. Because you are no longer sleepwalking through your life. You are no longer easy to manipulate. You are no longer a silent host. Have you ever noticed how, just as you begin to elevate, the attacks intensify? You start meditating and suddenly you feel anxiety you've never felt before. You start speaking your truth and people begin to turn on you. You start setting boundaries and chaos erupts around you. This isn't coincidence. This is resistance. The system of darkness that once thrived off your silence begins to crumble when you speak. And it doesn't go quietly. We often think demons are external, but the most dangerous ones are internalized. They live in the stories we tell ourselves, stories of unworthiness, guilt, shame, and fear. They live in our addictions, our self-sabotage, our chronic procrastination. And during awakening, all of this begins to surface, not to destroy us, but to be seen, to be healed. The light of awareness burns them out, but only if we face them. Only if we stop running. Only if we stop pretending that this journey is only about love and light. Ask yourself this: why would darkness fight so hard to hold on to you if you weren't powerful? Why would it target your mind, your relationships, your dreams, if you didn't carry something inside of you that threatens its agenda? The truth is, demons don't waste energy on the unaware. They target the awakening. Because once you awaken, you become a mirror that reflects the truth back into the world. And truth is their greatest enemy. But here's what no one tells you: demons fear your awakening more than anything because it activates your authority. Before you awaken, you operate from fear. You beg, you plead, you hide. But after awakening, you command. You reclaim. You shine. You no longer ask for permission to exist. You walk in your full spiritual stature. And that kind of presence doesn't have to shout. It only needs to be. There will be times when you feel like you're losing your mind. When the spiritual fog is so thick you can't tell what's real. When your dreams bleed into your waking life. When you feel watched, followed, drained. These are not signs that you're crazy. They're signs that the veil is thinning. That you're beginning to see into realms that most humans are trained to ignore. Your sensitivity is not a weakness, it's a superpower. But only if you learn to master it. You must understand that demons operate through fear. Fear is their frequency. If they can keep you afraid, they can keep you out of alignment. That's why they attack your peace. That's why they stir up confusion, anxiety, dread. Because when you are centered, you are powerful. When you are calm, you are clear. And when you are clear, you become a channel for divine intelligence. And that terrifies them. So how do we protect ourselves during awakening? Not through paranoia, but through presence. Not through denial, but through discernment. We must learn to become observers of our thoughts, to question the voices in our head that say we're not enough, or to challenge the urge to self-destruct when things get hard, to notice the patterns that pull us back into cycles we've outgrown. Protection is not always about casting out, it's about calling back our power. You must ground your energy daily. You must become intentional about what you consume, not just food, but media, music, conversations. Because everything has a frequency. And during awakening, your field is wide open. You are more sensitive than ever. You are more magnetic than ever. You are calling in light, but you are also attracting attention. And if you don't guard your gates, you will find yourself carrying energy that is not yours. This is why solitude becomes sacred. Why silence becomes a sanctuary. Because in stillness you begin to hear what is real. You begin to separate your voice from the voices of old wounds, old spirits, old narratives. And you begin to anchor yourself in truth. And once you are rooted in truth, demons cannot manipulate you. They may try, they may knock, but they cannot enter unless you open the door. There is a power in naming what you face. In saying out loud, "This thought is not mine. This fear is not mine. This shame is not mine." Because in naming, you break the agreement. You sever the tie. You reclaim your sovereignty. And that is what awakening truly is: not the gaining of something new, but the remembering of what has always been yours. You will encounter darkness on this path, not because you're failing, but because you're advancing. Every level of light reveals a new shadow. But remember this: shadows only exist where there is light. You are not the darkness. You are the one who sees it. And the one who sees has the power to change everything. So I ask you, have you been mistaking your awakening for a breakdown? Have you been thinking something is wrong with you, when in fact, everything is finally coming into alignment? Can you allow the discomfort to be evidence that you are shedding what no longer serves you? Can you trust that the war within is not a sign of defeat, but of transformation? You are not crazy. You are crossing realms. You are not weak. You are remembering your power. You are not cursed. You are being cleansed. And what you're feeling isn't punishment, it's preparation. You are being forged in fire. And when you emerge, you will not be the same. The demons that once whispered in your ear will tremble at your silence. The energies that once fed off your pain will starve in your peace. You are not just awakening. You are becoming a weapon of divine truth. And that is what no one tells you about demons. During awakening. They are not just afraid of your light. They are afraid of what your light will awaken in others. Part 2. The hidden contracts of the soul. There is a moment in your awakening where you realize that not only are you facing demons, you may have unconsciously made agreements with them. This realization is jarring. Most people don't want to believe they've ever allowed darkness into their lives. But awakening demands radical honesty. It requires that we look beneath the surface of our actions, our desires, and our wounds to see what we've allowed to speak for us, act through us, and live within us. These are not just metaphorical demons. These are energetic entities that thrive on unresolved pain and unhealed trauma. What no one tells you is that many of us inherited these agreements. They were passed down through bloodlines, through ancestral trauma, through emotional patterns that we never questioned. You may be carrying something that didn't originate with you. An addiction, a fear, a self-sabotaging voice that whispers failure into your dreams. These aren't just bad habits. These are echoes of ancient contracts. And demons, being legalistic in nature, will hold on to you as long as the contract remains unbroken. During awakening, your soul begins to recall these unspoken agreements. You start to see the patterns clearly. You realize this isn't the first time you faced this fear. This isn't the first time you've sabotaged love, run from purpose, or numbed your pain. You begin to understand that something deeper has been operating behind the scenes of your life. And that's both terrifying and liberating. Because once you see it, you can change it. Demons don't just attack, they attach. They embed themselves in your identity. They speak in first person. I am worthless. I will never succeed. I don't deserve love. That's not you. That's the voice of a wound. That's the voice of a lie that was planted so deep you mistook it for your own. Awakening teaches you to separate your true voice from the voice of distortion. And once you do, you begin the process of spiritual eviction. But eviction requires authority, and authority requires awareness. You can't cast out what you still cling to. You can't break agreements you're still protecting. Many of us secretly defend the very demons we're trying to escape. We say we want peace, but we cling to chaos because it's familiar. We say we want love, but we sabotage it because we don't believe we're worthy. These contradictions are not accidental, they're spiritual leverage points. And during awakening, they must be confronted. Have you ever asked yourself why certain emotions feel like they own you? Why some patterns seem impossible to break? It's because they've been fed. Every time we ignore a wound, we feed the entity that lives inside it. Every time we bury our anger, our grief, our fear, we fertilize the ground for darkness to grow. But when we bring our emotions into the light, when we name them, feel them, and release them, we cut off the food source. Demons starve in the presence of authenticity. This is why awakening is painful. Because it's not just about seeing the light, it's about burning away everything that blocks it. And that includes the parts of us that have been in agreement with darkness. It includes our identities built on trauma, our personas shaped by survival, our attachments to pain because we don't know who we are without it. The awakening process is a spiritual death, and demons will fight to keep you from dying to who you are not because they know who you are becoming. There are moments on this path when the darkness will try to seduce you. It won't come with fangs and claws, it will come with comfort, with distractions, with easy paths that lead to nowhere. You'll be tempted to go back to sleep, to numb out, to pretend you didn't see what you saw. But once you awaken, going back to sleep becomes a kind of living death. You can't unknow the truth. You can't unsee the illusion. And the longer you try to live in denial, the more suffering you create. What no one tells you about demons during awakening is that they don't fear your religion, they fear your remembrance. They don't fear your prayers if they're empty. They don't fear your rituals if your heart isn't in it. They fear your embodiment, your wholeness, your alignment, because that's where your power lives. And once you are fully aligned mind, body, spirit, your presence alone becomes disruptive to their agenda. You begin to notice that certain people can't stay around you anymore. Not because you've changed in a bad way, but because your frequency exposes their shadows. You'll feel guilt for outgrowing old relationships, but this is necessary. Some connections were built on your brokenness. And when you begin to heal, the foundation crumbles. You are not betraying anyone by evolving. You are simply stepping into the version of yourself you were always meant to be. There will be nights when you feel like you're walking through spiritual fire. When your sleep is haunted, your thoughts are heavy, your body feels invaded by something foreign. These are not signs that you're being punished. These are signs that you're purging. That everything you once suppressed is being invited to rise, not to destroy you, but to be transmuted. You are the alchemist. Your body is the cauldron. Your consciousness is the flame. You must learn to speak with authority. Not from ego, but from spirit. You must learn to say no more. You cannot have me. I reclaim my energy. And not just say it, but believe it. Because demons don't respond to volume. They respond to vibration. They know when you know. They know when you're rooted. And they know when your words are empty. Your power is not in the performance, it's in your embodiment. Have you noticed how your awareness begins to sharpen during awakening? How you can sense when energy shifts in a room? How you feel drained after certain conversations or heavy after scrolling through social media? This is not hypersensitivity. This is spiritual intelligence. Your soul is learning to read energy, to discern spirits, to recognize manipulation masked as love. And with that gift comes responsibility. You must protect your peace like it's sacred ground, because it is. This is why grounding is not optional. You must anchor yourself daily, breathe deeply, touch the earth. Speak to your body with reverence. Because if you don't ground yourself, you'll get pulled into realms you're not ready for. Awakening opens spiritual portals. Not all of them are safe, and not all of them are meant for you. Discernment is your compass. Intuition is your guide. And your peace is your permission slip. If it disturbs your peace, it's not from source. Ask yourself, what parts of me are still in agreement with fear? What stories am I still telling that keep me bound? What energies am I allowing into my space without questioning their purpose? These are the questions that purify. These are the questions that expose the hidden contracts, the silent agreements, the unspoken alliances with darkness. And once you see them, you have the power to end them. You are not powerless in this journey. You are not a victim of spiritual warfare. You are a warrior of the unseen. You are a light bearer, a truth teller, a breaker of chains. And every day that you choose to wake up, to stay conscious, to stay aligned, you are winning battles that your ancestors could not fight. You are fulfilling the prayers of generations. You are becoming the answer to a question that was asked long before you were born. And that's why the darkness fights so hard to stop you. Not because you're weak, but because you're winning. Not because you're broken, but because you're healing. And in healing is contagious. Your awakening doesn't just free you, it frees everyone connected to you. Your light becomes a map. Your truth becomes a mirror. Your journey becomes a portal for others to rise. So when the darkness speaks, speak louder with your light. When the fear creeps in, meet it with faith. When the shame rises, flood it with compassion. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be real, to be whole, to be aware. And awareness is the greatest exorcism of all. Part 3. Why your light makes you untouchable. There comes a sacred turning point in your awakening where the fear begins to dissolve, not because the darkness disappears, but because you finally remember who you are. You begin to see the illusion of the enemy. The so-called demons that once terrified you no longer hold the same power because you've stopped feeding them with your attention, your fear, and your unconscious agreement. What no one tells you about demons during awakening is that their greatest weapon was never their existence, it was your ignorance of your own power. And once you reclaim that power, you become untouchable. You see, demons can only dwell in places where light has not yet been remembered. They are squatters in forgotten rooms of the soul. But when you begin to awaken, you start walking through those rooms with the torch of consciousness. And with every step, every breath of awareness, every act of presence, they lose ground. Not because you fought them in the way the world fights, but because you remembered. You remembered that you are not the darkness. You are not even the battle. You are the observer, the one who chooses, the one who knows. And knowledge is the beginning of liberation. When you know who you are, you stop defending yourself against lies. You stop running from shadows. You stop reacting to attacks and start responding with truth. Because spiritual maturity is not measured by how loud you can pray or how long you can fast. It's measured by how rooted you can stay when the storm comes. Can you stay grounded when your triggers are pushed? Can you remain in alignment when the world tries to pull you out of your center? That is true spiritual warfare. So many people think awakening is about escaping the darkness, but it's not. It's about integrating it. You are not here to reject your shadow, you are here to redeem it. You are not here to destroy the parts of you that once aligned with fear, you are here to transmute them into wisdom. Every demon you face is not just an enemy, it's a mirror, a messenger, a fragment of unhealed energy that is asking to be seen, not shamed. That is the deeper mystery no one tells you. Demons flee not because you hate them, but because you no longer host them. This is why love is the greatest weapon. Not the shallow love the world sells, but the fierce, holy love that starts with yourself. When you love the parts of you that were once broken, when you hold space for your own pain without judgment, you become a sanctuary. And demons cannot live in sanctuaries. They can only live in separation, in judgment, or in shame. But you, as a fully awakened being, are no longer divided. You are whole, and wholeness is spiritual immunity. Have you ever noticed how people start reacting to your presence once you awaken? Some are drawn to you. Others feel deeply uncomfortable. It's not about you personally, it's about your frequency. Your light is triggering their unhealed places. It's waking up what's been dormant. And not everyone is ready to face that. You must release the need to be understood. You must release the urge to defend your light. You are not here to convince, you are here to embody. The more you embody, the less you resist. You stop fighting shadows and start walking in light. You stop reacting emotionally to every attack and start seeing with spiritual eyes. You begin to recognize that most people are not your enemies, they are simply unconscious. They are acting from their own pain, their own attachments, their own agreements with fear. And when you see that clearly, compassion becomes easy. Not because you excuse the behavior, but because you understand its origin. This is how you disarm darkness, not by shouting it down, but by seeing through it. By remembering that fear is not a force, it is a fog. And fog always lifts when the sun rises. You are that sun. You are the rising. You are the light they never expected to withstand the night. And now that you are awake, you can never return to the smallness you once called safety. You will still face shadows. You will still encounter resistance. But it will no longer control you. You will begin to recognize it as part of the process. You will understand that every new elevation requires a new level of spiritual clarity. You don't get attacked because you're weak, you get attacked because you're advancing. And every time you respond with awareness instead of fear, you ascend. You evolve. You reclaim more of your soul's territory. You are no longer just surviving. You are now creating. You are now commanding. You are now designing your life from a place of spiritual sovereignty. And that is why the attacks have slowed. That is why the noise has quieted. Because the darkness realizes it cannot manipulate someone who has remembered their own divinity. But this does not mean you become passive. It means you become strategic. You learn to protect your energy not from paranoia, but from purpose. You understand the value of your vibration. You learn to discern what feeds your light and what drains it. You become the guardian of your own frequency, not out of fear, but out of reverence, because you know that your energy is sacred. Your presence is sacred. Your silence, your words, your walk, it all ripples through the realm unseen. What no one tells you is that awakening never really ends. It deepens, it widens, it becomes quieter, more subtle, but infinitely more powerful. You begin to walk with a knowing, a grounded peace, a sacred clarity. And demons no longer scream at you, they whisper, they test, but you no longer react. You smile, you breathe, you bless. And in that moment, you win. Ask yourself now, what would life look like if I stopped fearing the darkness and started embodying the light? What would change if I no longer saw myself as a victim of spiritual warfare, but as a vessel of spiritual authority? Can I allow myself to be that powerful, that free, that whole? Can I finally stop dimming and start radiating? These questions are not just rhetorical, they are activations. And your answers will determine the frequency you walk in from this moment forward. You are not here to fight forever. You are here to become, to embody, to create. You are here to bring heaven to earth through your being, through your healing, through your remembrance. And the more you walk in that remembrance, the more transparent the darkness becomes. It can no longer hide where you walk. It can no longer speak where you stand. You are the light it feared would awaken. And now that you have, everything changes. So let this be your reminder. You are not just awakening for yourself. You are awakening for generations, for the ones who came before and the ones who will come after. You are the bridge, the breaker of chains, the living proof that light wins, that truth endures, and that love transforms. And this is what no one tells you about demons during awakening. They never had the final word. You do. Walk in that truth and watch everything bow to your light.